gentlemen, welcome back to the third episode now of going through and but giving the season predictions for the upcoming 2023-2024 NFL season. And then before that, we went ahead into the NFC West. So going down the line here, I'm at the Nfc North. And I won't waste any time, and we'll get straight into it. And to no one's surprise, winning the division, I have the Lions. The surprise is I do only have them going 10-7. I've seen a ton of hype for the Lions as of recent, and it's not necessarily that I disagree with it, because I think that they do have an insanely high ceiling. I just think that I don't know if they're going to reach that necessarily. I don't know if it's a given. I mean, they have really good coaching. They have a lot of talent. They brought in some solid defensive pieces. I still think boundary corner is kind of a question for them. They signed Cam Sutton, who played really well for the Steelers last year. They drafted Brian Branch, who was one of my favorite players in the draft. But these are nickel guys. Kind of the big minus. Interior defense, Aleem McNeil. I think he's poised for a big year this year. But there's also a world where he maybe doesn't reach that, and they could have trouble against the run. They brought in Jack Campbell, obviously, which I thought was a really good pick. I thought Jack Campbell was really good. He displayed a lot of athleticism while also being a pretty smart kid. He wasn't anything crazy in pass coverage, but I think with a defensive mind like Dan Campbell, he's gonna have a really good rookie season, and he'll be a really good long-time Lion. But yeah, them going 10-7. I don't know. I see a lot of people predicting that they'll even be like the 1 seed in the NFC, which I don't think that's impossible. But I mean, I have them going 10-7, and that's the tied for the third best record, or tied for the second best record actually. No, third. Sorry, tied for the third best. So I don't know. I just think the NFC is very mid, obviously. But, I mean, it's not like they have, like, a cakewalk schedule. Just going through their 7 losses real quick here. I have them losing to the Chiefs week 1. I think that's a pretty easy one. I have them losing to the Seahawks week 2. That's at Seattle. I have them losing week 4 at Carolina. I have them losing week 11 at Chicago. I then have them losing week 14 to the Bears again. I have the Bears winning 2 of them, which I don't think is going to happen, but, like, I don't know. For a reason, I just felt compelled to give the Bears a couple extra wins, and I guess that's where I ended, but no. I also have them losing week 16 to the Vikings. Just looking at the colors, I couldn't tell, but I also have them losing to the Chargers week 10. They play the Ravens. I do have them beating the Ravens, so, I mean, it's weird, because they play the NFC South, which, you know, is obviously a lot of people think is gonna suck. I really don't think they're that bad. I'll obviously get to that in the next episode. But yeah, 10-7. As I've been going through with each of these teams, I've kind of been throwing out where I think a pretty accurate floor and ceiling is for each team. I think the Lions could. I mean, just going through here, I think the Lions could legitimately end up winning like 13 games, 14 games even. I think like that's not out of the possibility. If Jared Goff has another really good season, and I think a lot of it rides to on how does things work when Jameson Williams gets back. Starting off with the Chiefs and the Seahawks, that's tough. Not let alone the fact that you have a deep threat that you don't have, and as much as like Amon-Ra, there's not really crazy depth at the wide receiver spot, and obviously they don't have a Hawkinson anymore, so I think there's a world where their offense struggles a little bit early before they get Jameson back, and not even because I think Jameson is like some crazy receiver, because I liked him a lot coming out of college, but I think the little bit he did play last year, he was kind of disappointing, which to be fair, he was coming off an ACL injury. But I just think having that speed opens up the offense so much more. And I don't know, I just think there's a world where they struggle with that out the gate. But moving on to the second team in the division, I have the Vikings. And I have the Vikings going 8-9. I've seen a lot of very mixed predictions about the Vikings. I see some people expecting them to go 12 wins, 13 wins even, something close to how they were last year. I just don't think that's possible. Their offense is going to be a top 5 offense in terms of yardage, even in terms of just skill set or skill position group. Even though they let go Dalvin Cook, even though I'm not the biggest Dalvin Cook guy, admittedly, but their defense, or their offense will be really good, and they're going to put up points, and their offense is going to win them some games. Brian O'Neill's coming back. He's going to be fully healthy, and I'm not huge on O'Neill, but I think he's really solid. Darisaw, obviously, he's really good. But their defense is what really scares me. I mean, obviously they signed Marcus Davenport. They brought back Jordan Hicks. They brought in Byron Murphy, who I think is egregiously mid. I mean, their secondary is rough, man, and it was really bad last year. And they brought in Brian Flores, which I think there's a world where their defense ends up being really good because Brian Flores is such a great defensive-minded guy. I couldn't bring myself to thinking that way just because just the lack of talent on the defense it's terrible. Like, if you're talking about just like least talented defenses in the NFL, they're probably bottom 5. It's really maybe bottom 3 even, because I mean, Danielle Hunter is really good. I don't really like Marcus Davenport. He had a really bad year last year. He can't stay healthy either, so I just think a combination of a guy who hasn't really put up pass stats like crazy, and he's an okay run defender too, but then he can't stay on the field on top of that. I just don't think it's a good mix for success. Harrison Smith is way over the hill. He's still a good run defender, but in the passing game, he just really isn't the same. It's been like that for the past couple of years. I think this defense is just so bad talent-wise that it's going to be hard for Flores to really put together anything that's substantial. But I don't know. It's hard to just come out and say that because obviously anything could change, and I don't want to fence ride and be like, well, actually, there's a world where they could be really good, but there is, because their offense is going to be so good that there's a world where they end up winning like 11, 12 games just because their offense, the best defense is a great offense. But no, like I said before, their offense will have no issues. Their offense will probably be even better than they were last year. Full year with Hawkinson, full offseason with Hawkinson is going to be really good for him. I'm a big Addison fan. I think he complements Justin Jefferson really well. KJ Osborne, I see like Vikings fans get excited about him. I just think he's okay. Like he's not the best third wide receiving option, but if someone goes down, that's where things get rough. But this team will definitely finish top 5 in in passing metrics and passing stats. But yeah, I only have them going 8-9. Just for reference, I have them losing to the Eagles, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Niners, the Bears. Well, I have them splitting with the Bears. I have them splitting with the Packers as well. I have them losing to the Saints. I have them losing to the Bengals, and then I have them splitting with the Lions. So, I mean, they have a really rough schedule. There's a world where maybe they sweep the Packers, and there's a world where maybe they sweep the Bears too. So even then, we're still only at 10 wins. But I don't know. Like I said before, their schedule's so hard. And last year, I mean, it showed when they played top competition, really outside the Bills game, that they just really couldn't hang, and the ball bounced their way a lot last year. And at the end of the day, they still won, and like that was the big thing with them. It doesn't matter how you win as long as you win. I just think that expecting to go like 11-1 in one possession games again, it just won't happen. But moving on, coming in third, I have the Packers, and I also have them going 8-9. The Packers they have a decent amount of talent on their team. A lot of it's super young, especially with the offense. I think they might have the youngest offensive group in the league. I just think that there was so much dysfunctionality last year with Rodgers and with the coaching staff, and there's a lot of push and pull that having a year kind of fresh air and kind of getting some young juice in there. They're going to, I don't want to say play inspired, but that's kind of, I guess, what I'm saying. Obviously, Jordan Love, there's a lot of people who are very, very mixed by him. He's a very, I don't want to say controversial player, but that's kind of almost what it is because so many people have different takes on him. I mean, I've seen a ton of Packers fans absolutely hate on him and say, like, oh, he's not the guy, like, trade him before he's ever really had a chance to play an entire season. When he came in last year against the Eagles, I know a lot of people say that he just threw a slant to Christian Watson, he took it 80 yards to the crib, which, I mean, yeah, that's part of it true, but I mean, outside of that, he was still making solid throws. Like, he looked like a good quarterback. Or I guess not like necessarily a good quarterback, but he looked like a quarterback. You know, like, there's certain guys when they get out there, they look clueless and they look lost, and he looked like he had a sense of what was going on and that confidence. And I think that's a big thing with him. I think if he gets his confidence up and he keeps with it, that the offense will roll along. And, I mean, they still have A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, who, I mean, both I think were still underutilized last year a lot. I don't know why they didn't run the hell out of the ball. I think that'll actually be what they do this year, that they're really going to lean on Jones and on Dillon and run some play action, take some shots. I mean, Watson, he's just lightning in a bottle, you know. He's kind of insane athleticism. The defense, there's talent there, but their safety group is super, super rough. They drafted Lucas Van Ness, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but it makes sense because last year when Rashawn Gary went down, they were like bottom 5 in the league in pressure rate, and Van Ness coming into the league, that's what he's going to be able to do day one, is get pressure. That's really all he'll be able to do, but, you know, he'll be a third down kind of exclusive guy starting off. And, you know, obviously they have a track record of developing young guys, so I think there's faith that he'll eventually turn into a solid, like, every down starter. But, yeah, I don't know. Joe Barry is way too conservative on defense. So much quarters, and that's why the Packers get ran all over every year. They can't stop the run to save their lives. But they're pretty solid against the pass because they don't let things over the top. But with really bad safety play last year and really bad safety play going into this year, I don't know. I am scared for them because I think that their floor fluctuates pretty low, but their ceiling is kind of topped out like around like 9, 10, and I have them at 8 obviously, but I think their floor could be as low as like 5. If Love comes out and he looks really bad, which I don't think Love will be personally, but there's a world where he does. He comes out and he just lacks confidence and he gets in his own head, and there's a world where the defense looks really bad because there's a point last year where the defense looked abysmal. But I don't know. I think personally that just having fresh air and fresh lights in the building, I don't know, kind of rejuvenated everything. And you see the way the players talk about Jordan Love. It makes you excited to watch him, and then also makes you question. I don't think these guys are just saying it to say it. You know, I think there's some legitimacy behind it. So I'm excited to see them play. You know, it's always interesting seeing young quarterbacks like finally get their chance to play. You know, so I'm looking forward to seeing Love play. I'm looking forward to see the Packers play. But I'll just go through their losses real quick. Obviously 8-9, like I said before. I have them losing to the Falcons. I have them losing to the Lions. I have them getting swept by the Lions, actually. I have them losing to the Broncos. I have them losing to the Chargers. I have them losing to the Chiefs. I have them losing to the Giants. And then I have them splitting with the Vikings. So I do have them sweeping the Bears. There's a lot of talk with Bears fans and Packers fans. As far as I'm concerned, the Packers are still owners of the Bears. Until the Bears actually win a game against them with this new regiment, then, you know, I'll believe it when I see it. But that's a good segue here into the final team. And in the fourth place, to anyone who knows ball, this isn't really a surprise. It only seems to be delusional Bears fans and other people who are very disconnected from the game that don't actually think this. But I have the Bears in fourth, and I have them going 6-11. And I honestly don't think that's terrible. Like, I think if the Bears go 6-11 this year, like that's a pretty like solid season. I don't want to say solid, but I mean they won 3 games last year. The year before, I think they won 4 maybe. So I mean you're doubling your win total. I just think strictly it comes down to I don't think this year will be this year. I think next year they'll be much more competitive because I mean they got a ton of young talent. and they brought in some guys. They brought in Tremaine Edmonds, and it wasn't a bad signing. I just think they paid a lot for him. A big thing I have with the Bears is that they have no pass rush whatsoever. And last year that killed them because they couldn't get to the quarterback at all, and their defense would just get torn up. They were solid against the run. They bulked up their O-line. I wasn't a huge David Montgomery fan. I've always thought Khalil Herbert was really good. I think Devontae Foreman's okay. So I think their run defense or their run offense will be really good again with Fields. I'm not a Fields hater, but I'm also not like huge on Fields. I see people who say he's like legitimately a top 12 QB, which it's like no. He's like pushing. He's close to like top 20. He's like in that range. Like I could see someone ranking him as high as like you can make an argument for like 16, and I could see the argument for as low as like 24. But there's a lot of things going against him last year, so I understand some of the rebuttals in that conversation. But I think that he takes a step. I don't think it's going to be a crazy step. I don't think it's going to be how Hurts was last year. I don't think how it's going to be with Allen when Allen got Diggs. I don't think it's going to be a Trevor Lawrence step. I do think it will be a step, though. And I think that next year, not this upcoming year, but the year afterwards, I think that will really be the year where he either A, like makes a huge step and becomes that top 10 quarterback that Bears fans think he is right now, or he doesn't elevate at all, and that's when it starts to think about time for moving on from him. But for the current time, I mean, he's a young quarterback, insanely talented. He has all the tools. He has been talking a little wild, which I think is funny, but I mean, it's always good to be confident. But I don't know, the way he's been talking, I feel like it puts a target on his back, which he already has one in general because Bears fan. I'm kidding, but no. I'll go through the Bears wins just because obviously I have 11 losses. I have them beating the Bucs week 2. I have them beating the Vikings week 6. I have them beating the Lions week 11. I have them beating the Lions week 14. I have them beating the Browns week 15, and then I have them beating the Cardinals week 16. I do think they could beat the Broncos. I think that they could beat the Raiders. I do think that depending how the game is played, they could beat the Panthers. But I don't know. I just think that still like the level of talent on their roster is just, it's too young and unproven to really project anything crazy. And you gotta give things like that a year to develop. So I just don't think it's gonna be this year. But I think they're gonna be a young team that's exciting. I think they'll be in games, and I think there's gonna be a lot of excitement for the next year. It won't be their year this year. They just don't have the talent. They don't have the tools. DJ Moore was a huge addition. Obviously, I didn't really touch on that at all. But outside of DJ Moore, their wide receiver room is really bad. People like Darnell Mooney a lot, and I like Mooney, but he gets overrated a lot, especially in recent years. Like, he's solid. He's a good slot guy, but he's not going to be a crazy option. He could be a good complementary piece to Moore. You can make that argument. I think Chase Claypool is awful. I think he's just really bad, just flat out bad. And after that, Velus Jones, obviously he's, I don't want to say mid because he's even worse than mid. Tyler Scott, he's more of a gadget guy. Equimini St. Brown, I mean, come on. They do have Cole Kmet. They signed Robert Tonyan. So, like, that's an okay tight end room. Nothing really crazy dynamic. I mean, Cole Kmet got his bag. And for what reason, I don't really know. But, yeah, like I said before, they'll show flashes. And there'll be a lot to be excited about for Bears fans, I think, coming up. And even just people who are just fans of young quarterbacks and young teams in general. But this won't be their year. I can say that with confidence. I'd probably put their floor around 3 wins again. I think there's a world where Justin Fields could come out and look really bad, and the defense doesn't play well, and they can't throw the ball. But I also do think that there's a world where Fields takes that step right away. I think that there's a low chance, but because of that, I'd say their floor is at 4 wins. I'd put it at 4 wins, and I would also say that their ceiling is at 8 wins. So just to recap, I have the Lions winning the division at 10-7. I have the Vikings coming in at second at 8-9. I have the Packers coming in at third, or tying if you want to say, at 8-9. And then I also have the Bears in fourth at 6-11. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to subscribe, like. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you want to call me an idiot, the comment section's right down there. But yeah, I might be able to upload the NFC East rankings right away today. If not, it'll probably be tomorrow, but it'll be in the next coming few days. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and see ya.